Not the bunnies. Not the bunnies.
We're going down the rabbit hole tonight.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
Yeah, you were saving
And on that
this.
note,
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tomb of the Terrible. I am your UncleNecRo, your host of this amazing program we have here. And joining me tonight, we have Del on the ones and the twos, the dynamic duo of Friday and Chaos, and our resident curmudgeon, Ron. How is everybody today?
Curmudgeonly.
Nice.
Happy to be
So-
here.
PT today.
I have to start on an upbeat note because tonight we're talking about the 1970s nature run amok classic, Night of the Lepus. So I do have to warn everybody, if you have an aversion to bunnies, if you find them terrifying, this may not be the movie for you. So let's get this out of the way. Quick descript of the movie, if you're not familiar. Night of the Lepus, 1972. And I'm going off of the Riff Tracks website for the descript. Their very existence seems to bring terror, what with their gnawing on vegetables and hopping and twitching their little tails, starring in a surprisingly wide array of beloved books, cartoons, and other children's entertainment. Okay, look, rabbits aren't scary at all, but what if, through a combination of terrible editing and confusing camera angles, we pretended like they were very big? Hey, where are you going? So it goes in Night of the Lepus, Latin for rabbit, as characters frequently remind each other and the audience, when rabbits overrun a farmer's land, he turns to a local scientist for a cure rather than poison them. Thus, the true message of this movie: poison rules. When the scientist's cure backfires, the rabbits grow to enormous size, and the real conflict begins. That of the special effects team versus the movie producers, who evidently budgeted next to nothing for the special effects team. Using an innovative technique known as replaying the same damn shot over and over, the makers of Night of the Lepus managed to create the eerily convincing sensation that you are watching normal-sized rabbits run toward a camera in slow motion. Occasionally, they run across the screen right to left in slow motion. That Cadbury commercial where the rabbit clucks like a chicken is definitely scarier. So is that mustache that DeForest Kelley sports in this movie. So, And tonight we are joined now with Mariah. Okay, show of hands. How many people here in the group, this was their first time watching this movie? Yeah, it was my first time too. I kept hearing about the movie.
Watching this.
Really? Wow. I don't know what to say about that. Did you seek help? Did you sue the people that brought you up, or at least,
Okay, so my family had kind of a weird tradition. We liked watching really bad B movies together because Mystery Science Theater had just come out and they made it okay to make fun of movies like this. So my mother would find movies like this that she grew up with that were that bad, and we would sit down and watch them. So it was actually one of the reasons I pitched it for this show, is because I knew how bad it was.
I actually had put it up too because my mother really enjoyed
this is your
one.
fault. Oh, okay.
So it
and you had something about the movie poster there, Del?
Oh yeah. Depending on where you go looking for it, you can also find where they accidentally called it Night of the Lupus. Just in case.
It's not lupus.
It's never lupus. I just had to put
Never
that up
lupus.
because
No.
it made me giggle. And
So
the little side there says, "What up, dog?" Speaking of dogs,
for some odd reason,
what up, Tom Dog?
Yeah.
Gotta say hi. We haven't done this for a while. Tom Dog over at Brill Pro. Everybody watching, check out his channel over on YouTube. He does some great shows. He has a lot of reviews on things. He does Channel X. He does Wrestling Prime. And he's a lot of fun. He's part of the Owlite and Dorkening family. And he is always here helping and hanging out. So go check him out. Subscribe, follow all of his stuff.
Indeed.
Haven't done.
And
had to do that.
You got to get back on the show sometime there.
Yes.
Just discuss really bad movies with you. Now, let's dissect this. There's no way I can actually say this. This is a movie about giant bunnies. Terrifyingly giant. But yep, there's the one. They at least use real bunnies and camera angles to make them look bigger than they really are. They do a bad job of it, but this had to be rear projection, this shot here.
Yeah, big rabbit hole.
Yeah. POV shot. Here come the bunnies. But see,
I'm just going
this movie
to show them.
This movie I first heard about in junior high because, again, our Del and I both had the same English teacher, and he was telling us about that movie when I was in 7th grade. And all I knew was giant bunnies. I should find this movie because I was 13. And I was still trying to find it. For some odd reason, this movie was the hardest thing to locate, at least for streaming. You would think a movie like that has a cult status like this. I'm pretty sure it's celebrated in some parts of the country as kind of like Trolls 2, various other really bad movies. But for some odd reason, it was only on Flicks.
Yeah.
And even that took a bit to actually make work properly for me.
Yeah. It was
I don't know if you guys remember, but the very early days of the Sci-Fi channel, they showed this movie every Saturday night at 3 a.m.
Oh, nice.
It is.
Oh.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well,
yeah, this is
when
definitely.
You first go. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to mention that this It's 1970s, 1972, as a matter of fact. So it has the feel of TV movie of the week about it. And not like a big, maybe a grindhouse feel, but even that. This is really more of a kind of like how Kingdom of the Spiders, starring another Star Trek celeb, kind of came out a few years later. But you were going to say, Del?
Oh, I was gonna say when you first look into this, I mean, yeah, it's Night of the Lepus, but you've got Janet Lee's in here, DeForest Kelly, Rory Calhoun, Stuart Whitman. There's a lot of decent actors here. Like, oh wow, well, if they were willing to take it on, that must mean something.
What was his name?
Yeah.
Was it Sam Whitman? The older guy.
They were all old.
Stuart. Oh. They don't have pictures of everybody up here. There's Henry Wills, but Stuart Whitman was the husband.
Yeah, Stuart Whitman. Yeah, Stuart Whitman, like, you know, for those of us that grew up in the 90s, he started showing up again as kind of like a character actor for the Crazy Grandpa and stuff.
Yeah, this one he was the scientist capturing bats and being the dad and the hero.
Which kind of makes me wonder.
How...
Oh, wow. They don't really eat the people, they just tear them apart.
Yeah.
Which,
this is how somebody death by bunnies.
Yeah. Which does bring up a question I'm going to get to in just a minute. I do want to point out that the two main characters, they have a daughter, a young daughter, a very annoying daughter, by the way. However, I have to wonder, in the 70s, were there grandparents that were suddenly having kids themselves? Because Janet Leigh wasn't exactly in her prime at the time.
Like, her daughter was getting ready to become big for Halloween in not even, 4 years, 5 years?
Yeah. So, and every time that little girl kept going, Mommy, I'm like, I kept expecting her to say Grandma, because I don't know, it could have worked that way too. But in any case, for whatever reason, the bunnies, well, it's explained that it's some kind of experimental thing that they do to the rabbits. And the little girl, switches out the test subject with a regular bunny and takes it home in a manner to take it home with her. And then what was he, a cousin? Or I can't remember.
He was just the son
he was
of the
just
guy
a
who owned the
friend.
ranch.
Yeah, he was the son of the couple that they were using to get the bunny from.
Okay. Well, he set it free and scampers into the rabbit hole, which they're everywhere. Like right at the beginning, a horse breaks his ankle because it slipped into one of those holes. And it kind of starts off as a horsey snuff film. So, yeah, there you go. Before it becomes a massive rabbit snuff film near the end. But we'll get to that. But we'll start off going on with our initial reactions to watching the movie. If for those of us who have seen it multiple times, try to think back to the first time you've ever seen it and give us our thoughts on that. Del, we'll start with you.
First time watching it, it gave me the giggles quite a bit. I was rather amused. I loved trying to get the screenshots I was getting because it was just like so much of the same B footage of bunnies on repeat. Like, I can just wait till it comes next time around. And I'd talk to my mom and she's like, they put them in trenches and made them run. And it's like, yeah. But they did a pretty good job with some of the stuff. I'm trying to see if I'm getting the right picture up now. Oop, wrong one. That's a dead bunny being shot through the floor. Oh no, that was the right one. If you see like the little soup can and things, they miniaturized all these things, houses and streets and all sorts of different stuff, but they got them for miniaturizing everything to make the bunnies run through it. They did a really good job. They didn't have that many scenes. I noticed that when the rabbit would attack somebody, you never got a full-on shot of a full bunny, so it could have just kind of been somebody with a rug over them, or a furry rug just attacking and doing it, because you didn't see like the head of a rabbit. You'd see then like a bloody rabbit face, but it was fun. It was a funny movie. I enjoyed it. It drug on a little bit to make the time. I think that it needed to, was like you said, the slow motion bunnies and stuff, and it was just like, yeah, this is something that if you watch at speed, you could probably speed up everything without dialogue in it and do it that way. But yeah, I was amazed at how one rabbit escaping was able to infect thousands of bunnies overnight to all become giant killer bunnies. And I was also impressed with the line, hold on. Here. There is a quote, guys, that you'll see as you're watching this movie. Then nobody even questions it. He goes to a cartoon drive-in theater. Attention, attention, ladies and gentlemen, attention. There is a herd of killer rabbits headed this way, and we desperately need your help. And everyone at the drive-in takes him seriously and follows them, and they make this giant barrier with their cars, and they actually just use all the townspeople as fucking bait in case the rabbits will, on the off chance that the rabbits will in fact be herded towards, and they do. There's all the cars in the background of people that they got to park there and hopefully not get squished. So yes, I was amazed that the people followed the directions of the killer rabbits so easily, and amused with everything that they did with it.
Oh yeah. So, moving on to Friday and Chaos. What did you guys think?
I was raised on horror movies and bad movies from like cradle age, and I enjoy old movies especially. I actually, oddly enough, really liked this movie.
I was sad that I couldn't have one when I saw it for the first time as a little girl, because it would make me sick, and I was sad at what they did at the end. That's about all I remember about it from the first few times I watched it when I was little.
Yeah, I've seen this multiple times throughout the years, off and on. So yeah.
Was it Pyle is at work right now, people. He cannot join us, but we wish him well. I hope to see him back here on the show soon. So how old were you guys when you first watched it? Do you remember?
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, something like that.
Okay.
Probably about 6 or 7. Last was the time I remember, earliest I remember seeing it.
All right. So, Ron, what was your reaction?
I'm a big fan of Svengoolie. If anyone is familiar with Svengoolie, that does. He's a horror movie host in the same vein as Elvira. And he has a show that comes on MeTV on Saturday nights that broadcasts out of Chicago. They play a lot of the old Universal monster movies and a lot of the old 1970s, 1980s B horror movies. And this movie is kind of in that same vein as something that Svengoolie would show. But I don't recall ever seeing this movie on Svengoolie. And I think for good reason, because it's subpar even for the kind of stuff that he does show. It's just, I thought overall it was actually kind of boring. It didn't really hold my attention all that well. So I found myself kind of sort of half paying attention to it and zoning out through a lot of it, just because uh, it was not realistic. There was very little about it that could draw me into the movie as being believable. I thought that they had a good premise and a good setup, and I would have liked to have seen it developed a lot further, but it didn't really go anywhere. They didn't do anything with it, and
Okay.
it just became just a bunch of giant bunnies running across the stream, and you're wondering, okay, how are they going to resolve this? What's going to be the final thing that they do that gets rid of all the bunnies? And then even when they reveal the final plan, it's just sort of hatched out of thin air, and they're sort of hoping on a whim that it does actually work. And of course, because the movie's running out of time, it does. But even then, I don't even think that the final solution was all that credible, to be honest with you. I feel like this movie needs to be remade by today's standards. It could be so much better, especially if you do it like Blumhouse.
Blumhouse. Yeah, Blumhouse. I was going to say.
And before I saw this movie, I had no idea what a Lepus was until you told me that it was a giant rabbit. So I didn't have high hopes for the movie at all. I was really kind of hoping that a Lepus would be like some kind of maybe an Irish gnome that goes around killing people, and I mean that would have made it at least a bit more fun for me. But it wasn't even that. You know, what's that little the little troll dude that text people in their bed and all that? I don't remember what it was called. But I was kind of hoping for something like that. But a giant rabbit, the rabbit in Monty Python was scarier than this.
Yes. But I got to say, Ron, there are two things. One, would you during the initial marketing, which sounds like a better movie, Night of the Lepus or Night of the Bunnies? Of course, you would go with the Latin.
Yeah, because
description
nobody knows
of
what the
the
fuck a Lepus is.
Right. At least they'll go out of curiosity. Now, think about it. As far as remakes go, picture it: Rob Zombie's Night of the Lepus.
I could see that. That might actually be pretty interesting.
Oh, yes. So we'll move on to Mariah's experience with the movie there.
So the first time I saw this, I was right around 11. And it's kind of funny because the reason my parents had us watch it that particular week was the week before they had introduced us to Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And the killer rabbit scene had us cracking up. So my parents were like, "Oh, you need to see Night of the Lepus." So we watched that the following week. This movie will forever crack me up, not just because it's something that my family did, but I remember being intrigued by the idea of science screwing up and causing a bigger problem. And, that's a theme that has started recurring more often in movies and shows now. So, this, as campy as it was, kind of, showed that they were trying to experiment with it even then. So I can appreciate that. But at 11, to see a bunny, which is supposed to be benign and cute and it becomes a giant killer rabbit, it was funny. It still is. So, yes, it is slow in places. You can kind of like let your mind wander and come back for other parts. But as a kid or as somebody who's deliberately watching this as a bad movie that you're just trying to find funny stuff to enjoy, it is definitely up there. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed certain parts of it. I enjoyed seeing how they made small little hand-sized bunnies look like they were 8 feet, 9 feet tall. Especially with what they were working with at the time. all in all, I've said it. I will sit down and rewatch this movie and Mystery Science Theater it into the ground when I can. Um, so yeah, just I enjoy it. It's a funny kind of thing. So I recommend it to anybody who just want to do something stupid and joke around about killer bunnies.
So oh wow, Pyle just wrote a novel. This you guys wanted to talk about the cute bunny rose. Okay. Little, I mean, they were big, but something was bigger than a car, and the next time as big as a wolf.
Yes,
Well,
bunnies kept changing giganticness depending on the model makers.
or
Yeah.
depending on what the script really needed. So, Mariah, you saw this when you were 11, you said, so you saw it about 10 years ago?
I wish. More like 30 now.
Okay.
I appreciate the fact that everybody thinks I'm that young. That's awesome. But no, I'm old. It's fine.
Okay.
This movie is as old as I am.
Yeah. Well, this movie is slightly older than me, let's just say. Now, as far as I go, this is my first time seeing the movie. Now, you got to keep in mind that either I have this theory that every decade had their period where they go through nature run amok kind of phase. The 70s had it, the 80s had it, the 90s definitely had it with Ronald Emmerich, and the aughts and beyond. It's always a thing. The 70s nature run amok movies are a different beast entirely, no pun intended, in that my stepfather actually bought a lot of those from the 70s, especially the ones involving grizzly bears and cocaine bears. Anyway, but something like this, a lot of the times when we're talking about nature run amok movies from the 70s, a lot of them had to be grindhouse movies made on the cheap. But this one had more of a feel of a TV movie, made for TV movie. Kind of like akin to, as I mentioned before, Kingdom of the Spiders. Only this one had DeForest Kelley, previously known as Bones on Star Trek, which I was so hoping they would at least do a little bit of a riff on, damn it, I'm a doctor, not a Elmer Fudd or whatever.
Yes.
But they didn't. That I was disappointed. They had the moment, but they squandered it. So, moving along though, what did we think that deterred away from our enjoyment of this movie? What bad things can we point out from this cinematic excellence that we feasted our eyeballs on earlier? Del, we'll go with you.
The continued footage over and over again, like the very beginning, they show this warning footage of like how rabbits are taking over and how they herd them into a corner, and then not so long after that, they're driving up to see the rabbit ranch and they're showing the exact same thing from the side view of their car window, basically. And
Yeah.
they're like herding them into a corner and shooting them, and the girls, the bunnies. Don't take your daughter to work with you if you're studying rabid animals or things like that. And I don't know. You were saying she was whiny. I mean, apparently, she was necessary so that she could swap out the bunny and get it out. I'm sure they could have found some other filler to, oh shit, it jumped out of our hands because we don't have automatic locking doors because it's 1972. So, there could have been another mode of releasing the rabbit. And the fact that 1,000 rabbits got huge overnight. That suspension of disbelief that it wasn't like it was, magical or something that it could have at least taken a breeding season or something, just overnight. Oh, interesting. Wow.
Or like, have a 1 month later.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Same footage over and over.
See,
Rabbit. Haha. Thank you,
okay.
Stefan.
So, Friday, Chaos. What are your thoughts on some of the more annoying parts?
In addition to what she said, I have found that butcher houses around here kill chickens a lot easier with water and electricity. The way they did it on the train tracks, like, huh? Yeah.
It goes there.
Da-da-da.
And I'm still in disbelief that everybody's like, yeah, we'll follow you from the movie. That one is like, huh? What about you?
My only real problem with the movie, personally, was, of course, near the end when they were doing the whole electrocution scene. My only thought was 90% of power grids around now would buckle under the pressure of half those bunnies and just fucking black out, and their plan would go to shit. Back then, it probably would have only killed like 10 bunnies before the transformers blew and their electric fence railroad track would have been shot to shit. But somehow it magically stayed up and electrified through all tens of thousands of bunnies. And only exploded after they're all dead.
The smell. I have to wonder what that smell is like.
Bad.
Burnt.
Yeah. Oh, burnt hair. Anyway, Ron, what say you?
I was actually going to echo Chaos's sentiment as well, with the breaker box not exploding until after they were all dead. But I would also have to imagine, what would the cleanup be like with thousands of giant rabbits? And did they feed everybody coney stew for years to come, or what? Yeah, I don't know. As far as the things that took my enjoyment away from the movie, let's see. Number one, we set up the premise that this all happens because our test rabbit gets released into the wild. So we've established our plot point, but then we don't do anything with it. It doesn't go anywhere. It's never addressed again. It just, where did all these giant fucking rabbits come from? Nobody questions. Nobody says a damn word. Like, oh, suddenly we have 50-foot rabbits and nobody's talking about it. Okay. Does anybody not think about the fact that if they had traced it back to the origin of how this started, it was actually all the little girl's fault because she swapped out the rabbit? But nobody questions that either. Nobody says anything about it. So they established this plot point and there's no repercussion. They don't carry on with it. There's absolutely nothing. Number two, nobody in this movie shows any emotion whatsoever about what's happening. They're all very lackadaisical, going about their normal everyday life, completely unaware that there are giant rabbits floating around until the giant rabbit attacks them, and then they scream and then they die. Okay, fine. Somebody dies. They find dead bodies. Nobody mourns them. Nobody shows any emotion. Nobody cries. There are no funerals. How do we know? All we know is that there's a bunch of giant rabbits. Okay, so number three, if we do have a bunch of giant rabbits that are attacking this town and killing people, did nobody think to call the military that has big guns and would be much better equipped to deal with this kind of situation? But nobody does that. Where are the papers? Where are the headlines? Where's the National Enquirer coming in saying town being overrun by a bunch of giant rabbits? How come this is not national news? I would imagine something of this magnitude, of this scale, would be talked about far beyond the city limits, and people would be wanting to come from miles around because they want to see these giant rabbits. And how do we deal with the situation? Does the president declare a national emergency that there are giant rabbits that are spreading across Arizona? No. Nobody knows about it outside of this city, although these rabbits seem to be spreading outward very quickly, and they are a danger to your plants and your crops and your livestock, but nobody talks about that. It's vaguely mentioned, and that's about it. So that all kind of bothered me a little bit. And then even the resolution, like I said, it's just, okay, I have an idea. Let's try this, see if it works. What if it didn't work? What are you going to do next? There's no backup plan. So this was a bunch of, let's throw a bunch of stuff together, make a movie out of it, but not really work on the script or the story whatsoever because, hey, we got cute bunnies. Doesn't that count for anything? So because of this, and there was really nothing to draw me into it, I had a really hard time just actually finishing this movie. I could really care less about it. There was nothing to it other than we have cute shots of bunnies, and I mean, if you like bunny gore and bunnies getting shot and covered with some ketchup, to show that they were shot, that's about it. There's really there's not much more to it because it's 1972 and we can't show real graphic content on TV, and this isn't made by Eli Roth. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I guess my standards have changed, but this was very lackluster for me.
Okay. Del? You're muted.
They did actually go back and talk to the guy who gave them the serum to begin with, because he was an expert in genetics and birth defects and stuff. And he didn't quite connect the two either, but they at least kind of addressed it. And they did pull in the National Guard and had a bunch of people with machine guns helping to herd the rabbits in. So they did take the time to do that. And the backup plan was they had fighter jets that had missiles that they were going to shoot down if they couldn't get them. But it was all that they couldn't get it done in time, so that would have had to have been the next day, try to organize again how to get them all together so that they could kill them.
Yeah.
But they couldn't do the airplanes at the point where they were with the townspeople and such, so that's why they had to herd them instead of that night, because the rabbits were moving too fast.
Or they didn't have the budget to bring in a bunch of fighter jets.
Yeah, they had a couple waiting with missiles, but they were like, we can't do this because there are still people in town. So you evacuate them, and then maybe we'll see if they're there, and then we can try to blow them up.
Also, Del, you're wrong. You see, the bunnies, when they got bigger, they all started moving in slow-mo and galloping. And everybody could feel it. Remember, they're big now.
They also growl.
Yes. So let's take a moment. Briar, we'll get to you here. We'll give you a few moments to gather your thoughts, but we really need to pay some bills. So let's roll the thing.
Greetings and shabibans. We are the Retro Reductibus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Reductibus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Dorking Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Octopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
Welcome back. So, Doom of the Terrible, Night of the Lepus. Mariah, we're back to you. What I know you've seen this many times, but what is it is about this movie that you would change or do better?
I completely agree with what you said earlier. I really think this needs to be done as a remake sometime soon. And I'll tell you why. As I've grown and as I've gained more knowledge, if you watch the movie, the whole where they're talking about gene therapy and using it, you can tell this is from where we first started understanding the genome. And they talk about using gene therapy and injecting the genes, and then letting the rabbit go so that it rubs up against other rabbits to spread it. That's not how that would work. So we all know this now. I'd like to see that redone. And I'm going to tell you the biggest flaw in this thing, even, before you break into the science and all that, that script was horrible. Like, the lines, there's a part of me that's like, Janet Leigh did this. It was really stilted. The timing was off. Which is what makes it a really strong, bad B movie. I would like to see the script redone because, like I said, even liking the movie, there are points in it where I'm just like, you know what, I got time to go do this, and I'll come back for this. I would like to see it redone to be something a little bit more believable, because that is what made this a great B movie. Is it's completely laughable from everything that's wrong in it to how it was scripted and how lines are delivered. In no way am I ever going to say that this is an A-list movie and it was before it, blah, 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 blah. No, I won't say that. This is one of those movies that when you watch it, it is because it is so bad. It is enjoyable when you watch it with other people and can make fun of it. That is what makes it a good movie. But as a movie itself, it has so many problems. And as a writer, that plot line has enough holes that I could drive a truck through it. So, it's one of those give and take. But that truly is the problem with the movie, apart from the scientific inaccuracy. Is that script was bad. It was just bad.
Yeah. I mean, as far as remakes go, I could really see if somebody would talk, say, Peter Jackson into remaking this, doing it in New Zealand, and somehow finagling Andy Serkis to do the motion capture. That would be great. Be awesome. So,
Well, I mean, even doing it close to the actual book, because after I watched the movie, I did read the short story.
yeah.
The short story is actually intriguing for the time that it was written. Again, it's one of those things that was written when we were first starting to understand genetics. Knowing what we know now and applying it to that story, I think would be awesome. And letting Peter Jackson do it when we know what he's capable of, I think would be awesome.
Now, an interesting bit of trivia about the short story or the novella, whatever you want to call it, that it's based on. That story is actually more of a political satire with giant bunnies than what came about as what the movie was. So if you want to find it and read it, I do highly recommend it. But then again, I always recommend trying to find the novelization or, the literary version of whatever movie is popular or whatever you saw. So, as far as I go, mind you, I have a certain taste for movies like this. It's very low budget, very cheesy, yes, it's slow moving. And the top of my list, I would get rid of that little girl. I mean, if we need it at the beginning of the movie, sure. But then have her, just disappear. Not necessarily kill her off. Just, hi, and then, okay, bye. And then the rest of the movie happens. DeForest Kelley, let's face it, I just know him as Bones from Star Trek. It was kind of distracting. I understand that this was the 70s and they needed to work. I mean, William Shatner had how TV in the 70s. And I think that Leonard Nimoy got the best parts with, say, the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake, but that's a discussion for another time. What really made this not work for me was the fact that clearly they were using forced perspective for the giant bunnies. And that necessitated a lot of, shot of the bunnies, and then shot of the actors reacting off screen to the giant bunnies that were supposedly coming at them, and then shooting at something off screen, and then the bunnies, and then off screen, and then the bunnies, and the off screen, and then the blah, 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 whatever, and the guy in the shack that was just eating a sandwich, and that one rabbit comes upon him. He was just trying to have a sandwich. Also, it's just that, so they grow giant. Rabbits are normally known as herbivores. So now that they're bigger in size, they suddenly get a taste for the sullen tang of human flesh. Why? Well, they don't really eat them, as you can see. They just kind of rip them apart. I'm wondering if they just have a collective, if we were big enough, those humans will be taken out so fast. But also, I'm wondering if they use the actual bunny screams, because have you heard a bunny scream? It is kind of unsettling. Those things scream. It will get under your skin and it will haunt your nightmares. So,
World's awesome scream, and it sounds a lot the same.
Yeah.
So clear.
Right. But I think this would be ripe for at least a modern remaking. Yeah, Blumhouse needs to get on top of this or something, or some other studio. I mean, if Dark Castle was still a thing, It would just be on top of it like that. But that's another discussion we can maybe have in a little bit. But do we want to do the 5-star reviews?
I can't imagine
There's
there
so
are
many
any.
shows.
Oh, there are.
The one thing I forgot to show, because this was fun, and this is the 70s, is this is how to not hitchhike.
No, actually, I believe that is the method of hitchhiking back in the 70s,
Y-
if I remember correctly.
They're like, we aren't picking anybody up, especially a guy with a gun. And then he throws his gun away, and the next person to come up the highway is a priest. And he just stands in the middle of the highway until he stops. Can I help you, my son? Good thing you.
I'm going to tell you, that particular still, I see it, and all I hear, just showing my age. Do you guys remember the theme song to the Incredible Hulk show?
Yeah.
I know where you're
Yeah, that's all I see.
Yeah, I do have to say
By an
that.
angel.
Yeah, I do have to say though that highway to heaven. Anyway, wow, that's reaching back. But I do have to say that all the scenes where the helicopter is taking off and flying, I was silently doing the MASH theme in my head. But okay. Anyway, moving along. Okay, so we do have 5-star reviews. First one, Leo Hot with 2 T's. Best giant rabbit movie ever.
I think it's the only giant rabbit movie ever, isn't it?
I was going to say, is this a bad movie? Absolutely not. Consider the cast. Janet Leigh, DeForest Kelley, Bones from Star Trek, and many others you would recognize from the 70s. And let's see, the discovery of the yada, 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 talking about, nature on amok movies. Let's see, I definitely would not call this a bad movie, despite its obviously hilarious villains. Aren't the rabbits the villains? I don't know. But the script does a considerably good job justifying giant carnivorous rabbits.
It does? When did that happen?
I was going to say.
I don't remember that.
What movie did you watch, sir? But especially if you have a Nature Gone Bad collection, this is a must-have for that. So the next one is by Julian Kennedy, 14 Karat Kaiju. Night of the Lepus, 8 out of 10. After a sizable amount of research, I can declare that Night of the Lepus is the best giant bunny rabbits terrorized town movies ever made. In addition, my extensive research, including almost 6 months of field work on IMDb, has led to the conclusion that Night of the Lepus is the only giant bunny rabbits terrorizing a town movie. There you go. Okay. It's based on a comic novel, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so classic 70s cult horror. My husband told me about this horrible horror movie his mother took him to see as a child, and I never heard of it. I looked at the trailers online, and it was hilarious, so of course I had to purchase it so we could watch it together and just enjoy this outlandish cult horror film whenever we wanted. It's important to buy physical media since everything doesn't stream, or if you rent / buy on demand, might not be there. That was an odd thing to end on. I'm going to skip the one that's titled I'm a Doctor, Not Elmer Fudd, because he makes way too many Star Trek puns. And then we're going to end on the one titled Bunnies of the World Unite. I fell in love with this film the first time I saw it on TV and thought, how cool is that? Killer bunnies. Or when good bunnies go bad and attack horses, people, cattle, buildings. I felt quite sorry for them when Rory Calhoun, DeForest Kelley, Paul Fix, Stuart Whitman, and Janet Leigh tried to exterminate the poor things. Clearly, they're on the side of the bunnies, but particularly when it was their fault to begin with, that these poor bunnies ended up huge and unremorsefully belligerent. I especially blame that rotten little girl for exchanging the test bunnies So she can keep one as a pet, the one injected with a serum that can cause birth defects, the one that gets away and lives to build its own guerrilla army of vengeful killer bunnies. Okay, so clearly this is the way we need to watch it, is to root for the bunnies. Anyway, so moving along, we're going to give our ratings of it, between 0 and 10, and whether or not we would recommend this and why. So, Del, let's start with you.
Okay, I'm gonna go with. I'm like torn between a 5 and a 6, and I think I'm gonna go with the 5 because it just drug on too long. It could have been a shorter film, and it still would have had. It might have even had more impact if it would have been a slightly shorter film. But I would recommend it to somebody who wants a good giggle fest. Not like and let them know that they can like speed up some of the stuff, because yeah, there's just way too much of the same rabbit footage going on. But it kind of, it was humorous. So yeah, I'd tell some people.
Yeah. Okay. So Friday, what we'll start with you there.
I'm giving it a 6 because I liked it a lot better than the spider flick I saw before it. Because that one gave me nightmares. We watch all types of animals and insect horror movies here with my mother-in-law, and yeah, and yes, I did share it with her.
What was the spider movie?
I think it's Arachnophobia or something. It was black and white.
It wasn't Arachnophobia. It was
No.
one of the. It was a tarantula movie.
Possibly
from back
tarantula.
in the day. Yeah.
Okay. And Chaos.
Probably about a 6 as well.
Okay.
And of course, I've recommended it to people before. And I
All right.
don't really have any problems with the movie other than the ending and
Obviously,
loopholes.
are the ones that were said so far.
Yeah. Okay. Ron?
I don't really have anything against bunnies. I mean, I like them. I think they're cute and all of that. So I can't really give it a bad score, but I can't really give it a good score either, just because it still didn't hold my attention as much as some of the other movies that we watched. Even House of the Dead kept my attention better than this movie. So I would probably have to give it a 3 or a 4, just because there's still got to be better movies out there, and I'm still waiting for them. As far as recommending it to anyone, there's only one person that I could possibly even think about recommending this to, and that would be my niece, because she keeps 2 bunnies as pets. And I dated a girl once who kept 2 bunnies as pets, and they are very dirty creatures. They scatter their shavings and their little bunny pebbles all around, and I mean, they stay in a cage all the time. So, like, what's the point? So I'm not a huge fan as bunnies as pets, and my niece keeps 2 of them. She loves bunnies, but then I thought, I can't be that kind of monster. What kind of uncle would I be if I were to show her a movie of rabbits getting senselessly killed? So I'm not going to do that to her. Therefore, that rules out anybody that I would possibly recommend this movie to.
Yeah. I would definitely not show her Pet Sematary 2 then. Mariah. Well.
So y'all already know the score with me. I'm the one who said, hey, we should watch Night of the Lepus. So, I will recommend this to people. I think everybody should have that group of friends that they sit down and watch movies and make fun of them with. And this will always be on that list. This is, kind of up there with Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Life of Brian, The Thing, and The Tingler. Like this is just one of those movies that I recommend for that. I do not recommend it to small child like people that love bunnies, because they get upset at the end. But for general, bad B movie, hey, let's make fun of this because it's just not believable. Completely recommend.
Okay. What was your score again?
For me, this is a 8 out of 10 lightsabers because
All right.
awesome.
Okay, cool. As far as I go, I'm going to give it 5. Now, there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out here right at the end. First of all, the very, very end of the movie. I think the funniest thing was that, everything was done. The night of the Lepus has passed. Everybody seems safe. The happy music is playing. And then they focus on a rabbit hill with a couple of bunnies, and the music suddenly takes it's more of a minor chord thing. And I'm thinking, focus, look at the bunny. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, sure. That I am convinced. Very good. Second thing is I do want to caution people, there is such a thing as rabbit fever, and it's kind of an autoimmune disease that there is no cure for and will really mess somebody up. My cousin died from it, let's just say, about 10 years ago from it. And that's why I don't really mess with rabbits to begin with. Now that I've brought everybody down, I'm going to say that the best way to watch this is to pretend that it's one of those old school Disney nature documentaries the entire way. So as far as rating, I believe I gave it a 5. There we go. Plotting evil. But I gave it a 5. And I would definitely recommend people to watch this simply because you need to see it to believe it. Usually I just say giant killer bunnies and they're in. But those are the kind of friends I have. So, are we ready for the wheel now?
I am ready.
Okay.
Dun, dun. You ready?
We're
1,
Yep.
2, 3.
Come on, sleep away.
Roll 2.
Oh wow. Oh, this is stinky classic cheese right here. Mwah. I cannot wait to watch this again and discuss this with you next week. So until next time, Del, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me everywhere. I am over on Facebook. If you look up Kari Carrie Sanders and you see this, that is me.
Yeah!
And all my social media from there, it leads to my author page. I'm also on, outside of Owlite shows, I'm also on Splash Pages that's another show on the Dorkening that is usually on Tuesday nights. We might be on Wednesday night this week. We are doing a live reading of Hellboy, the Crooked Man this week, because they just released the double novel or re-released a put together version of the trade paperback for Hellboy, the Crooked Man, and the Return of Effie Kolb. So we're celebrating that by doing a live read. And yeah, if you could check me out, I'm on Amazon, I'm on Facebook, but everything comes from my Facebook. So look for me there. And half the time you will be speaking with Jenny because she's awesome and I don't social media well. And she does.
All right.
That's me.
Friday, where can we find you?
You can find me on Fakeware. You can find me on Owlite. You can find me on Friday with the Library in the Blue Box. And my author page, Jennifer Elliott. And I pretend I'm a whole lot of people.
All right. Chaos, where can we find you?
Find her.
If you can. Ron, where can we find you?
You can find me snuggling Ori over here. If you're looking for Ori, then that's probably where she is. You can find me on Facebook. I have an author page now, Ronald W Gillespie Jr. _author. And you can also find me on TikTok under @WolfDojo. I make martial arts content and make a general nuisance of myself. So
cool. Mariah, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook under the name Mariah Lynn. I also have Mariah Lynn author page. You can message me there to find me, which links up to my Twitter and all of my social media. However, if you do message, you're likely going to be talking to Jenny. She does all my social media stuff for me while I grind the gears in real life at work. But you can find all of my links there.
Cool. And I am, as always, your humble servant, Uncle Necro. You can find me in eastern Nebraska. Kind of holed up because holy cow, it's hot out there. I don't want to spontaneously combust. Also, you can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on various blogs, and a couple of other podcasts, and also as a proud member of the Owlite network. And also, you can find my short story in the Owlite Menagerie, which is for sale wherever you get your books at. There it is. And for the next year, it will all proceeds will go and essentially go to this particular nonprofit organization. So until next time, get help.
stay